Hey, what's up everybody? Hammerheart Metal Reviews here once again, doing another discography countdown on one of my favorite bands. Today we're going to be talking about the black metal legends Darkthrone. They just released a new album this past Friday. I'm going to be including that in this list. I'm just going to run down all their 19 studio albums from my least favorite down to my favorite. That's a lot of albums. This video might be a little bit on the longer side. What can you say about Darkthrone, one of the originators in the Norwegian black metal scene? Started out in the early 90s, actually started as a death metal band, then completely changed their style into what's now known as black metal. Really put out some staples in the genre. This is a band that really doesn't give any fucks about what anyone else thinks. They changed their style on so many albums. There's kind of a bunch of different eras of the band, like their death metal phase, black metal. Then they got kind of their mid period, which kind of mixes some styles. Then they've got a crust punk period. And now their newer material is kind of like this blackened epic doom, just classic heavy metal mixed with black metal, really their own unique sound. And anyways, let's just get right into this. Gonna start at number 19, my least favorite album, and go all way down to my favorite. So coming in last at number 19 is Goatlord from 1996. This is, to me, kind of an unnecessary album. They had released their debut Soulside Journey death metal album, started writing and rehearsing some new material, which was also in the death metal vein. Then they kind of scrapped that and went a completely different direction. But this album is just all that scrapped material. So basically a death metal album, but with some different kind of singing on top. I think Fenriz did lots of the vocals on this album. To me, this is just not like a true release, because it's just throwing in some old material that they didn't really finish. It's not that great in my opinion, and yeah, that's why it's coming last. This one was an easy choice for me. I like a lot of Darkthrone material. This one is not one I go back to a lot. Up next at number 18 from 2008 is Darkthrones and Black Flags. This is definitely from their crust punk period. Probably my least favorite era of the band, but there are still some quality standout tracks in these type of albums. You'll see my next few picks are kind of all from this era of the band, but nonetheless, some good songs on this album. Death of All Oaths, Blacksmith of the North. Like, there's still some enjoyable moments. Just as a whole, front to back, this album isn't as standout as some of the others, and that's why it's coming in this lowdown. Up next at number 17 from 2010 is Circle the Wagons. This is another kind of blackened punk crust album. It's very similar in style to Darkthrones and Black Flags. Favorite songs on here: Running for Borders, Stylized Corpse. Like, it's okay, but these couple albums are just not ones that I find myself going back to for repeated listens too often. Every now and then I do, but not too often. Up next at number 16 from 2007 is FOAD, or Fuck Off and Die. Same kind of thing. This is still in that same crust punk era. Very similar in style to the last couple albums I mentioned. Best songs on here: The Banners of Old, Perverter of the Seven Gates is pretty cool. Just all in all, I couldn't really put it higher than this. Up next at number 15, the album right before this from 2006, The Cult Is Alive. This one's actually got some catchy songs on here. Too Old, Too Cold, Graveyard Slut is pretty funny, Whiskey Funeral. Just once again is still in the same era of the band, which you can clearly see by all these albums being this low down. Easily my least favorite era from Darkthrone, but there are still some okay songs here. Up next at number 14, another album from this era, from 2013, The Underground Resistance. Some great songs on here. Leave No Cross Unturned. That's an absolutely classic long song. Fenriz is doing some singing on this album. Him and Nocturnal Kotal kind of trade off song by song, but this is a really good one. Fenriz's singing is definitely an acquired taste. Sometimes it really hits, sometimes it's not so good. Dead Early is a great song. Lesser Men. Like, all in all, of this era, this is probably the best one, but it's still not something I go back to a ton. Up next at number 13 from 2004 is Sardonic Wrath. This was still kind of in their mid-period. Still had more of a blackened edge to it, but you could kind of hear the crust punk influences starting to creep in. Maybe not as prevalent on this album as the other albums that I've just talked about. But nonetheless, this album is okay. I don't mind it. Information Wants to Be Syndicated is an okay song. Rawness Obsolete. Sacrificing to the God of Doubt. Like, all in all, this is a decent album. I just couldn't put it higher than this because I like all the other ones a lot more. Up next at number 12, we're now out of that era of the band for sure. I'm actually going all the way back to the debut from 1991, Soulside Journey. This is just a pure death metal album. They were not a black metal band at this point at all. This is kind of the only death metal album in this whole list. But Darkthrone has a lot of different stuff, a lot of different styles. This is a pretty good death metal album, and especially for a debut. I just can't put it higher than 12 because I like the other stuff a little bit more, but this is by no means a bad album. Like, from here on out, 12 down to 1, I enjoy all of these albums. My favorite songs on here, Cromlech, Grave with a View, just really catchy death metal album. Maybe not the most technical stuff, but it's still pretty good, and I enjoy it a lot. Moving right along, coming in at number 11 from 1996 is Total Death. This was kind of the first album after they had put out like 4 really straight ahead black metal records. Then this one, it's still definitely a black metal record, but started bringing in some other influences, some other elements. And overall, this is still a pretty good album. It's a little bit rawer sounding, not as polished as some of the other mid-era stuff, but I do still like it. The artwork is great. My favorite songs on here are Blackwinged, Blasphemer. Just all in all, still a pretty killer album. It just didn't quite make my top 10. Now let's get into that top 10. In right at number 10 from 2003 is the album Hate Them. This is from their mid-era, still very much has a blackened edge to it. This isn't like as raw as their early black metal stuff. This has got a lot of different elements, a lot of different influences, but it really works. I like this era of the band a lot. There's still kind of some punky elements in here too. But my favorite songs on here, Rust, Fucked Up and Ready to Die is cool, Striding for a Piece of Lucifer. All in all, pretty good album. Just couldn't put it higher than 10 because the other 9 are even better. Moving right along to number 9 from 2019 is the album Old Star. Another album with some killer artwork. This is in their later stages, which they kind of consider like black, epic, heavy metal. It's bringing in a lot of just like classic heavy metal elements, but then still with the Darkthrone black metal edge to it. Favorite songs on here, I Muffle Your Inner Choir is really good. The Hardship of the Scots just has like a really classic heavy metal riff in there, but they really make it work. It's just easy and repetitive, but it's really fucking catchy. Sticks in your ear for a long time. Alpman is a great song. All in all, this album is pretty good. I still like to go back and listen to it. It's only from a couple years ago, but it's still a standout. I really like it. Up next at number 8 is their brand new album that was just released this past Friday, Eternal Hails. Who knows in time if this album will stay in this spot? I had a hard time putting it above Old Star. I feel like it's kind of a continuation of that sound, but even taking it to the next level of epicness. All the songs on here are really long. I've only listened to this a few albums, so yeah, a few albums. I've only listened to this album a few times. So like I said, this could easily move up or down once I get some more listens on it. But my first impressions are very good. I really dig this album. I like what they were going for. It almost has like an old school Black Sabbath or Candlemass feel to it, but still with the Darkthrone black metal vocals and the Darkthrone touches in there. But yeah, first impressions of this album, really good. The opening track, His Master's Voice, great fucking riffs in there. Really good song. Hate Cloak is great. Then the last track, Lost Arcane City of Aparka, is kind of like a proggy epic doom song. It's really different for Darkthrone, but I really like it. All in all, a great fucking album that was just released. If you haven't heard it yet, do yourself a favor and go check it out. Moving right along. Up next at number 7 from 1999 is the album Ravishing Grimness. I fucking love this album. The Claws of Time, one of my favorite Darkthrone songs. Like, come on, the riff in there. This song is so catchy and so good. Like, just on the basis of this song alone, it needs to be high. But this album as a whole is great too. Lifeless is a great song. All in all, a really killer black metal album. This is from their mid-period, so it's not just like pure raw black metal. There's some other things going on, but I really dig this album, and that's why it's coming at number 7. Up next at number 6 from 2016 is Arctic Thunder. Oh, this one was just like a great comeback album, at least in my mind. They didn't really have anything to come back from because they don't care what anyone else thinks. But after the crust punk period, then this one kind of brought them back to a new era of the band, which like Arctic Thunder, Old Star, now Eternal Hails are kind of out of the crust punk era. Not that there's, like, there are still some punky elements to some of these songs, but this album's more got like that classic heavy metal feel to it, brought in with their black metal touches. And Arctic Thunder, I just absolutely love this album. Tundra Leech, so goddamn catchy. Tundra Leech, and the riff in there, like one of the catchiest songs ever. Boreal Fiends has an absolutely killer riff. Like the riffing on this album is just great. The title track, Arctic Thunder, just another one that has like a simple classic heavy metal riff, but they just repeat it and it sticks in your ear and it's so fucking catchy. All in all, just a great album. I almost put it in my top 5, but didn't quite make it. Number 6 out of 19 albums is still pretty fucking good. Now let's get into that top 5. Coming in at number 5 from 2001 is Plague Wielder. From their mid-period, this is probably my favorite album of that era. Still very much a black metal album, but like I've talked about with some other albums like Hate Them or Ravishing Grimness, it's just got some other elements brought in there too. It's not as raw, it's a little more polished, but it's fucking good. Catchy songs, Weakling Avenger, Raining Murder, Reek, I Void Hanger. Like this whole fucking album is just really catchy, really fucking good. That's why it made it in at number 5. Now into the top 4. This is like the pure black metal period of the band, all 4 of these. Clearly my favorite era of the band if I have all 4 of these albums ranked 1 to 4. This is really tough placing because I like all these albums so fucking much. All 4 of these are absolute must-haves for any black metal fan. These are staples in the genre. They pretty much started Norwegian black metal, like along with Mayhem and then other early bands like Burzum, Enslaved, Emperor. But yeah, Darkthrone was one of the first on the scene, and these 4 albums are absolutely fucking killer. So let's see where I have each one. Coming in at number 4 from 1994 is Transylvanian Hunger. A lot of people probably have this number 1. It is a classic for a reason. For me, I like the other 3 a little bit more. This one kind of has the same kind of vibe to it as the album that preceded it, which I'll talk about after. But very repetitive riffs, very simple, but that's the point of it. They're not trying to be too technical. It's just trying to be very raw black metal, in your face, super harsh, aggressive vocals. Like this is what raw black metal sounds like. Tons of bands have copied this sound, especially from this album. But anyways, my favorite songs, the title track, Transylvanian Hunger, is great. Skald of Satan's Saul, just all in all, front to back, killer fucking black metal album. That's what's in at number 4. Up next at number 3 is their second album from 1992, A Blaze in the Northern Sky. This is their second album, but it has a debut album feel to it because it is the first black metal album by them. Kind of the first major black metal album released from Norway in this time. They kind of beat all the other bands to the punch. And this is just a staple of black metal. Absolutely classic songs, absolutely great album. If you've never heard it, I don't know why you wouldn't have if you're into black metal. But yeah, please go listen to it. In the Shadow of the Horns is a great fucking song. The Pagan Winter, just all in all, really killer riffs. You can still see how they're transitioning from death metal to black metal by some of the riffing styles on here. But don't make no mistake, this is not a death metal album. This is just absolutely killer, and that's why it's coming in at number 3. Coming up next at number 2 from 1995 is the album Panzerfaust. This was their 5th album. Yeah, 4th in the black metal realm, but 5th album overall. It's not really considered part of their Unholy Trilogy, which was their 2nd, 3rd, and 4th albums. This one was right after, but it's still very much just a raw black metal album. There's not really other influences coming in there yet, but the songwriting did get a lot better on here than from like Transylvanian Hunger, in my opinion. The songs are a little bit more drawn out. There's a little bit more to them, but it just creates this great dark atmosphere. It's really fucking good. I almost wanted to put this number 1, but a different one holds a little better spot in my heart. But nonetheless, my favorite songs on here, on Wind On Wind of Sorg, Beholding the Throne of Might, Quintessence. Just all in all, absolutely epic classic black metal album. And that's why it's coming in at number 2. And that just leaves one. My favorite Darkthrone album of all time from 1993 is Under a Funeral Moon. This kind of took what they did with A Blazing Northern Sky to the next level. This is just like pure raw black metal. Transylvanian Hunger has a very similar sound to this album, which I kind of mentioned before, but this one came first, and I like this one better. I feel like the songs on here are a little bit catchier. They're a little bit better. Not by much. Transylvanian Hunger is pretty fucking killer too, but to me, Under a Funeral Moon is my favorite Darkthrone album. Favorite songs on here, Natasha in Eternal Sleep, the opening track. Come on. So goddamn fucking good. Unholy black metal. To Walk the Infernal Fields is kind of... They almost stole a riff from Bathory with Enter the Eternal Fire. It's very similar, but that being said, this is still a really catchy song. It's got the same kind of vibe as that Bathory song, just like a slower epic. So I think Darkthrone obviously was inspired by Bathory. I mean, what black metal bands are not inspired by Bathory? But it's not a complete ripoff. It's their own thing. It just sounds very similar, but I still fucking love this song too. Absolutely great. The title track, Under a Funeral Moon, absolutely killer as well. All in all, front to back, just a classic black metal album. Anyways, that's my list. Let me know down below what you thought of it. What's your favorite Darkthrone album? What's your least favorite? Do you like the Crust Punk era? If so, what's your favorite album from that era? Just anyways, let me know all your comments. I'd love to hear them. Until next time, click on like, click on subscribe. Hammerheart Metal Reviews, out.